Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Two Guys Pretending That They Know Ball. I am Brody, and then joining with me today, I'm here with J Ross. No Cheyenne today because he's off doing Cheyenne things, but I think we got a great video for you guys today. Today we're doing a Seattle Sounders 2025 season tier list. Basically, the premise, I guess, is just we're gonna rank the players based on where they would fall in our own squad, as opposed to ranking them like compared to the rest of the MLS. The reason why is because I truly don't think we have an actual S tier player, and I want to be able to put players in the S tier. So yeah, we're just gonna do it ranking everybody in our squad, bottom to top, and then yeah, we'll give our thoughts on each player. If you guys disagree or agree or have anything to say in the comments, then leave a comment on what you would change, if you agree or disagree with our rankings, all that good stuff. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do, J Ross, is I'm going to put, with all due respect, all of the new guys I'm going to put in D tier just because there's not much to really say about them because they haven't really played much yet. Musovski, I wish there was an F tier so I could put him in, but it's all right. He'll do here. And then also, maybe it seems harsh, but I'm going to also chuck Cody Baker in a D tier only because, he did see some minutes, but towards like the back half of the season, most of the season, to be honest, he really didn't see much minutes. He kind of got bounced from the rotation completely. So I wouldn't say he's a C tier guy. I kind of just put him at the top of this D tier. And all these guys, just aside from Musovski, haven't really played. So it's kind of hard to rank them. So I hope you guys are all cool with us putting them in D tier. But anyways, we are going to start this off with Alex Roldan. I feel like he's kind of a good middle ground guy to start this off with to kind of just like gauge where we're going to have everybody. Listen, I know Alex kind of gets stick from the fans and whatnot, and rightly so. There's some things that you could definitely criticize him on, but I would start by putting him in the B tier. He'll probably end up more on the lower side of B tier, but I think he's been solid enough over the course of the last few seasons to kind of put him in B tier. What are your thoughts on Alex Roldan B tier?
Yeah, I think that's fair, Roldan. He's definitely been a lockdown starter for this team, but we've started to see over the last few years some of those mistakes, leak into his game. I think if we were to rank him like 2 years ago, maybe we'd have a more high-end B, low side of A, but I think right now it's fair to have him that B, sort of like, that guy who's always going to be on the team sheet, but might not be that superstar for the Sounders right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I mean, I know some people probably want him lower, but you have to remember, like, this guy's probably getting into most MLS starting lineups, to be honest with you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm comfortable with him in B tier to start. And
I think it will be
then
interesting to see him how he plays if we switch formations. 'Cause I think a lot of the problems we've had have been more of him on the defensive side of the ball. So, if he's playing more in a
yeah,
wing back role, we might see him climb up a little bit this year. We'll see.
yeah, and then he'll also have competition from the next guy we're gonna rank. So hopefully that raises both of their levels. But yeah, the next guy is Paul Arriola, and to be honest with you, bro, I think this is like just the most B tier like MLS guy. I don't know. I mean, you can't really put him in A tier with the players that we have, but just his resume and what he's done, in MLS with the USMNT, it feels weird kind of putting him in C tier. To me, I think he's the perfect B tier. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think he's kind of one of those guys where any MLS team would be comfortable playing him in any position, like any game, but no MLS team would be like, this is our guy in this position every game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, let's see. He's a versatile guy. We have a lot of games coming up this next year, so he's going to be a good help on the wing. I think he actually played left wing back in our first preseason game, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I thought he'd be on the right side, if anything. But yeah, we'll go ahead and chuck him into B tier. I think that's a good start. Okay, next we got Danny Leyva. For those of you that watched the preseason game, probably impressed with Danny Leyva's performance. I thought he was pretty good. I'm gonna let you take this one. Where would you put Danny Leyva?
This is sort of another one of those players that sort of decides how we're going to do this tier list, because I think it's fair to say Danny Leyva is not a starter, but He definitely has high upside, like his range of passing, his set piece ability. Me personally, I think I'd probably have him that C tier because I sort of view him as one step above where I could see him subbing in a lot this year. The guys below are still more unknown, or like I don't see them getting as many minutes. But I think Danny Lave is probably a safer C tier guy for now.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing to be honest, and I'm excited to see. I hope he gets more minutes playing at the 10 this year, to be honest with you, because the few times that he came on and played the 10, I thought he looked very good. But yeah, I think he's a good. He's a bit more. Obviously, he's more proven than everyone else here, but I don't think he's on the level of these two. But he definitely has that upside. He's very very good player, talent wise, and hopefully he gets a lot more game time to hopefully break out in a kind of like similar to how Obed did. All right, then next up, I think this is the picture I chose because he's finally back, the GOAT, Kim Ki-hee. Listen, we needed a signing like this. You know, it's nothing flashy. It's not, the big, I guess, wonder signing that we wanted. But for a team that's going to be playing in a lot of tournaments, you need veteran experience and also championship veteran experience, especially at center back. Like, that's the one position where you can't afford any mistakes. So you really want to put experience back there. So I love this signing for us. He's probably not going to be the same caliber of player he was, but from all accounts, he's been good in Korea for the last few years. So I would put him in C tier, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's definitely says his numbers. He's racked up quite a few minutes over the past couple years, which is good to see at his age. But I think he'll be that another example of a solid bench guy that we will trust off the bench. But I feel like C tier is probably a spot for him within our team right now.
How do you see the order of our center backs? Like, how do you see? Obviously, we got Yamar and Reagan as the top two guys, but do you think there's a chance that Kim like is the certified CB3, or do you think John Bell's kind of got that on lock after last
I
season?
could I could see I could see Kihi being like the lockdown center back three. You know that Schmetzer trusts him. I mean, we won an MLS Cup with him being a pretty big part of the squad. And I also think
Yeah,
with the back three, it's good to have an extra center back to sub in, especially more on that right side if we need Kihi to play the right of the three for a couple of games or something like that. So we'll kind of see how the
yeah.
season goes on, but I could see Kihi being that lockdown center back three.
All right, Kim, we're gonna slot you right here. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we'll put him right there. Okay. Up next, we got Georgie. Georgie. Came on. He was a breath of fresh air last season, especially early on when he first started getting his minutes and his chances. It felt like we were doing next to nothing offensively, and he came in and was just beating guys left and right and providing that spark that we needed, honestly. I see him. He's probably going to take on a bigger role this year, you'd have to imagine. By all accounts, he looks like he's doing very well in training. I saw something saying that, like, when they were tallying all the goals in training, he was in first place. So that's good to see because he definitely needed to work on his end product. That was by far what he was lacking for sure. But the talent's there. And I think based off of last season, I feel inclined to kind of just put him high C tier for now. Obviously, there's a lot of room to move up over the course of this next season, and we'll at the end of the season do another one of these and see, like, how it shakes up compared to the preseason one. But I think he's good, high end C tier. I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think that our list is kind of turning into, our best player, good starters, lockdown starters, and then those guys off the bench. And I can see Georgie really being one of those guys on the higher end of it where he'll come in and make his impact on the match, but probably isn't a lockdown starter with the team as of right now.
I mean, do you see it? Do you think there's a path for him to even get into the starting lineup? Because obviously you bring in Jesus Ferreira, and if we do go to the five back, that leaves less room for attackers to break in. How much do you realistically see Georgie playing when you factor in? Obviously, we got Pedro de la Vega, Rothrock, who had a good year. How do you see him kind of getting his minutes, and how much do you think he'll play next season?
Well, I think Rothrock's a good example of no one thought he was going to be a starter last year. And by the end, he was one of the first names on the team sheet, like lockdown
Yeah.
starter. And I think I think he'll probably step back a little bit this year, probably not be a lockdown starter. And I honestly would be okay putting Rothrock and Georgie close to each other on this tier list. I think they'll have a pretty good battle for sort of that last starter spot, first off the bench type of role this year. Even though they do
Yeah.
offer completely different things within the game, I just think that's sort of
Mhm.
a good battle we'll see in the team sheet this year.
Yeah, there's sort of two different profiles, but I think we might as well do Rothrock since we brought him up. But I think just based off of last season, although I think Georgie's just the more talented guy, I think Rothrock's production, what he actually did on the field, I think he deserves B tier. I don't think I'd put him in C tier after last season because he came in and nobody expected anything, and he played with a chip on his shoulder, showed off his technical abilities, a smart player, and just knows where to be at the right times. And his end product is pretty good as well for a role player. I think he deserves B after last season. I'd put him just above Georgie for now. Obviously, that can
Yeah.
change, but yeah.
I would agree with that. I think right now he's definitely ahead of him. I think they'll be battling all season, but I mean, going back, we have B as sort of those lockdown starters. As of our last game played, Rothrock is a lockdown starter towards the end of the last season, so I think it's fair to have him right there in B.
Yeah. All right. And then next up, we got Josh Atencio, a player who is going to be making a transition into a different position this season. He's going to go back to center back. That's where he played his youth ball at. So I think off of last season, he did have a big role the year prior. Last year didn't really play a whole lot. I don't think I would put him in D tier though. I think I'd put him in C tier, kind of with the rest of these guys. Maybe probably just
Yeah, I'd agree.
under Georgie. I see him playing a lot more, especially with us going 5 in the back and him moving to center back. But I would happily put him into C tier for now, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that the difference between him and a lot of those lower tier guys is even though Atencio might not have played a ton last year, we know what he has. He's actually played in some pretty big games for us. So I think that it's fair to say he's in the C tier right now.
All right, next up we got the beard. We got JP. Listen, the last few years, you would have gone right up here, no questions asked. But this is an older JP, was kind of relegated to the bench last year due to the emergence of Obed and Christian as that great double pivot partnership. Where would you put JP? Where'd you put JP in the big 2025?
That's a hard one because I think coming off last year, I'd probably still have him as a B player, even though we said that's lockdown starter. I think we all know JP's talent, but it's hard because all the reports coming out of preseason are saying he's looked really in shape. He's looked really good. The best he's had as a preseason in a Sounders shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn if I want to put him at the bottom of A just because I know what JP has to offer, or top of B because we are coming off a season where he hasn't been necessarily the guy anymore for the Sounders. Where were you thinking?
Yeah. And this also is why I didn't want to kind of name the tiers, only because like if we were doing it like lockdown starter role player, you could technically make the case that he'd be in C tier that way, but we all know JP's well above C tier talent. Last year wasn't his best year. I still think he was solid, but not the JP we know and love, obviously. I watched him in the preseason game. He looked phenomenal. I think I would still put him top of B tier for now, to be honest with you. But obviously, he could go back into A tier for sure, especially with the way he's looked in preseason. And by all accounts and from the reports at training, he looks very good. I think we kind of slide him into top of B tier because I do rate him over all three of these guys, but I don't think I'd put him in A tier based off of last season. I think B tier is good.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he's top of B tier. That's fair. I would not be surprised if he jumped back up and was back in that A tier, but I think for now,
100%.
B is probably the right spot.
All right, next up we got Nuhu Choo Choo, the teriyaki man himself. Where would you have him, J. Ross?
I think that's hard because Nuhu's one of those guys where we all know defensively he is up there, the best in the league, 1v1 defending. And I think with a 3-back, he's going to be crucial to this team defensively and will hide his problems because we all know going forward, sometimes there's a lot to be desired. That's one of those positions too. I'm kind of in the same spot. Do we want to put him A or B? I think that's probably where he falls. I think that his ceiling has kind of dropped back a little bit over the past about year and a half, but I think that that'll be hidden a lot by him playing the left side of a 3-5-2 or /5-back. I'm honestly okay putting him A or B.
Yeah, I mean, last time we saw Nuhu playing center back in a 3 center back formation, he made the All-Star team. So I expect maybe he won't make the All-Star team this year, but I do expect him to play a lot better considering we're eliminating the weakest part of his game and enhancing, the part of the game that he's very good at. I can't put him above JP. Can't do it. So I
Yeah,
think I
that's
just
fair.
have him B tier. I think he's a solid starter on this team. And yeah, I think he could honestly be a sneaky A tier by the end of the season, especially if we roll out that 5-back formation a lot more. I think B tier is probably good for now.
The next guy, this will be interesting. I want you. Where would you put Pedro de la Vega on this tier list?
Pedro de la Vega. Listen, you're not going to find too many Pedro de la Vega supporters than me, but this is tricky because you could legitimately make the argument that based off of just performance, he could be down here, maybe back end here. But when you just look at just eye test player talent, you could easily make an argument for either one of these. I think what's fair is to put him. I think I would put him very end of B tier.
That's right. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I think he's better than everybody in this B tier, but he's got to prove it. He obviously was our big transfer signing of last year. Didn't really play a whole lot, had multiple injuries, and he did show a lot of good sparks. He did show a lot of flashes of the player that he can become, but after so many injuries and coming back and not being able to build that team chemistry and not being 100% fit, obviously you could tell just by watching him, his play suffered pretty greatly. But he did look a lot better towards the end of the season. The Portland game I like to go to a lot because I thought he created a lot in that game and just looked quick, sharp, beating a lot of players. He showed what he can be, and I think that for me personally is enough to get him into this B tier. But I can't go any higher than that based off of the production.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'd agree 100%. I think that we were discussing how, his performance last year compared to where his ceiling is. I mean, right in the middle is B tier. I think that's fair. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season we see him as the S tier by himself, purely off talent alone. But he has to go out and prove that.
All right. Next up, we got Jackson Reagan. For me, I think this is our first A tier player.
100%.
It's been very, very deep into the video, about halfway, I think, and we're still yet to put a guy in there. But Jackson Reagan, welcome to the A tier. MLS Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Should he have been there? Maybe not. But the fact that you even get mentioned in that conversation to me makes you an A tier a player on this team. I thought he took he started off a bit shaky. The whole team did, to be fair, but over the second half of the year, he really looked like one of the best center backs in the MLS. And for that, I think he's a comfortable A tier. I wouldn't put him S, but A tier solid 100% in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair. He's easily one of the best defenders in the league. And I mean, what he provides attacking wise too on set pieces, I mean, anything lower than A tier would just be a joke. I think he's locked down A tier.
Yeah, 100%. All right, and then we got Reed Baker Whiting. Played a lot more this year than he did in years past. I thought he always looked pretty decent when he came on. Did play multiple positions as well, so the versatility helps. I think I would put Reed. I think I'd put him in C tier. I think he's proved enough to be in the C tier area. Out of all these guys, he might have played the most minutes, I think. Maybe Georgie played more, but yeah, I think Reed's C tier. He's got a high ceiling for sure. Obviously, there's been murmurs over the last few seasons of some European interest. Would you have him any higher, any lower? What are your thoughts?
I think it's fair to have him there. Like we mentioned, that's sort of where we're having those guys that are coming off the bench, and we trust them coming off the bench. I think it's fair to have Reed Baker Whiting there, and I'd also have John Bell there too. The next guy up, I think it's safe to say we have both of our go-to coming off the bench left backs, both in that C tier.
All right, Stephen Fry.
I think he has to be A tier.
I think he's an A tier. I'm debating S tier. The only reason why is because I don't think.
So let's decide this right now. Let's decide one. Are we gonna have S tier be one person that's the guy, or is S tier gonna have more than one player?
In my vision, I got one guy, and and that's truly S tier, I think.
I agree. So I think under that
But
definition, I'd have Fry A tier.
yeah, I have Fry A tier, but I just want to give a shout out to the legend that is Stephen Fry, probably a top 3-4 player in the club's history. All right, and then we got Jordan Morris, the club's top goal scorer. I guess you could say alone that could put him in the S tier, but I don't think I could put Jordan Morris in the S tier, to be honest with you, man. I think he goes right here. I think you put him kind of right next to Fry.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he had 13 or 14 regular season goals, career year,
13.
but 13 regular season goals, so tied for uh, second, I think, in his career because his highest scoring season was as a rookie, I believe. There were extra
Yeah.
games, but yeah. I don't think he's a premier forward in the league. I do love Jordan Morris. I don't think you can really put him anywhere lower than A tier in our own roster. So yeah, I think he belongs right smack in the middle of A tier.
Yeah, I mean, 13 goals, 4 assists last year. Kind of have to have him at A tier at this point. He's been kind of one of the staples in the Sounders team since we became an almost dynasty and then rolled back into where we are now. I think a big thing for him too is he scored 13 goals and he's not on pens and he never has been a penalty guy, so that helps him. I think A tier kind of has to be where you put Morris in this squad.
The only argument I could see for B tier is just the fact that he was a ghost for the first half of the year. He started like 14 games with only 1 goal. Like that is bad. That's objectively very bad when your striker's like that cold. But he was so hot on the second half of the season that I think you got to put him A tier.
I would agree. And I think part of it too is if you were to think about, imagine the Sounders with and without Morris last year, 13 goals is a lot of goals. And I don't know if we were to have, let's say, Rui Diaz playing starting for us still, I don't think he gets 13 without penalties last season. That alone, I think, has to keep Morris in A tier.
All right. I just realized to Andrew Thomas, listen, we got a lot of more fun guys to talk about. I do like Andrew, but let's just get this out of the way. I think C tier is fair enough. I think he had a good year the times that he did play, but obviously Fry's the guy for now. And he did start like super well. And then I think kind of later on, the more games he played, he didn't play as well. Let a couple goals in that I think he could have saved. But I think C tier is fair for a backup goalie. Now we're getting to the final guys here. All these guys are going to be near the top of the tier list. We'll start with Christian Roldan. Out of all the players in at least the MLS era, he's got a case to be Mr. Sounder. I mean, he's going to likely finish with the most caps on the team. He's just versatile. He's always consistent. Even when we were not playing well the first half of the season, like I still felt like he was playing solid. So I think he's an easy A tier. A part of me, the way he played in the playoffs, bro, he was here. He was playing like this. But over the course of the last season, I think A tier. Honestly, I'm gonna put him top. I'm gonna put him top A tier. I think he was great, and he's gonna have a great year this next year as well.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. Similar to what I said with Morris, I think if we didn't have Roldan last year would have been a completely different story. And it blows my mind, like looking through the stats. It just feels like every stat you look at, Roldan's in the top 5 in this team, no matter what it is. He's just kind of one of those guys who throw him any position in this starting lineup. I'm like, okay, he'll do a job.
Then we got the new signing, the main key signing of the offseason, a trade with FC Dallas to acquire Jesus Ferreira. And I think talent-wise, you can make an argument he's our best attacker. Obviously, coming off one of probably his worst season as a pro, but a lot of that you can attribute to many things. Like the team was in shambles. Let's be honest. Ask any FC Dallas fan; they'll tell you the same. Dealt with a lot of injuries, so I could give him a pass. I've seen enough of him being great in the MLS to give him a pass on that. I think in the squad for now, I think we'll put him end of A tier, but I would not be shocked if Jesus Ferreira ends up S tier.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I was going to have him in the same spot, end of A tier. Even coming off last year, I would have been okay with top of B, but I just think purely off of how consistent and how long he's been playing good in the MLS and only being 24 speaks for itself. Like all of his numbers across the board, he's above the 90th percentile and multiple attacking stats going back before 2024. And what stands out to me is his defensive numbers as a striker, I think will fit in great into our system. So I think I'd probably have him in the end of the A tier, and I would not be surprised if at the end of the season, we look back and he's our MVP.
That's probably the most underrated part of his game is his defensive presence, especially in a team like ours where you have to defend. And obviously some guys, kind of got left out of the team because they couldn't really defend well. You don't have to worry about that with Jesus Ferreira. He's going to press and press, and he's very good at it. He's just all around a very solid attacker. He's smart. He can finish with both feet. Technical ability, like he's going to fit in nicely, 100%. And we haven't really addressed this. The reason why there's two Stefan Fries is definitely 100% not because we recorded this the first time and he did not make the list at all. So I just listen. He's so nice. We had to put him twice. Okay, so get over it. Next up, we got team MVP Albert Rusnak. Which, listen, you would think that he's your team's most valuable player that you put him S tier. I'm gonna have him A tier. And it's simple for me. Yes, he did have a lot of good stats. Double-digit goals, 16, 15 assists around there. Firstly, you got to take those numbers into context. Like, he had a hat trick against a defender in net. He didn't really, most of his goals were, either PKs or they were against, not the best competition. And anytime we played a proper, MLS Cup contending team, he did not show up objectively. And it's not even just looking at the box score. Those of you who watch the games, he was nothing more than, I guess, a chain mover. But your designated player, your team MVP, you got to be more than a chain mover. You got to be more than a passive guy who just kind of keeps possession. You got to really make a difference out there, and you just didn't see it from him in the big games last year. So I think A tier is fair. You can't put him any lower, obviously, because of his total contributions, but I think A tier is fair.
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. His numbers definitely got inflated last year from set pieces in general, because even his assist numbers, he's very good on the ball with his service. So I think A tier is about where he'd be. He definitely still has a high ceiling, and we've seen him in years past be even more impactful in open play, and I'd like to see that again this year. But I think for now, A tier is where I'd put Rusnak.
And some of you might get mad at that. You know what, guys? Complain about it in the comments. We can have some nice dialogue in the comments about it. But A tier, he goes. All right. Up next, we got our star boy, our wonder boy, Obed Vargas. Huge breakout season, and also like Christian in the playoffs, looked like one of the best center mids in the MLS. You can only expect him to build upon that. He's obviously been linked to multiple teams in the offseason, mainly Liga MX. He's a player that probably has a market value of around 8 to 10 million more for sure if we're giving him to an MX team. I think I would put him A tier. I don't think you can put him S tier yet. Anyway, I don't think he'll be with the club long enough to see us put him in the S tier, but I think he's just smack dab kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I'll just put him right here. Why not?
Yeah.
I
think that's fair. Obed's one of those guys you could tell when he got comfortable, because when he's comfortable on the ball, he's willing to take someone on 1v1, sometimes 3v1 and still get away with it. Like the passes he attempts. He's just one of those guys where you can tell the more pro games he gets under his belt, the better and better he's going to get, the more flair he's going to have in his game. And I'm excited to see what happens with him. And I think A tier is a safe spot, and I think it's only up from here.
I mean, you saw because obviously 2023 he wasn't the regular starter, but you saw flashes of him being able to take his game to the next level, like the Portland game where he beat a guy, plays a good cross back to, I think, Rui Diaz. Like just things like that where you saw the flashes, and then he finally seemed to put it all together this last year, and man, it was beautiful. He really took a step up, and we're going to make a lot of money off him, so thank you, Obed. But I think he's comfortably in the A tier. So yeah, and then we'll move on with easily, in my opinion, the crown jewel of this team. Obviously, everyone loves their attackers, and Jordan Morris, USMMT, Christian Roldan. These are like the faces of the team. But this guy is the best player, and I argue it's not particularly close right now. Yamar's quite literally the best player in his position in the MLS. I don't know how you could not put him anywhere else but S tier. Should have won Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. Should have certainly been over Reagan, with all due respect. He's just phenomenal, man. Like you know what you're getting. He's just he leaves me speechless, man. What an
Yeah, no,
absolute rock at
absolutely.
the back this guy is. Like you can't ask for a better center back in the MLS than Neymar at the moment. So
Yeah, at the start of the video when he sort of mentioned how we're ranking and the Sounders don't have a true S tier player, Yaimar's our S tier player in terms of center backs in this
yeah,
league. Like it doesn't get better than Yaimar. And like there's in terms
yeah.
of center backs in the MLS, there's not really a flaw in his game that you can point out. Defensively, class, his ability on the ball, very underrated. Ability to build out his aerial ability. Obviously, we've always all seen his strength. Like he's the ideal
Dude, did you
MLS center
see?
back.
What did you see the preseason game? I sent you a clip where like JP gets the ball, he kind of rips it for some reason like up in the air to
Hip
Yamar.
height.
He just takes just hip height, takes it out of the air with his weak foot, calmly plays a pat. Like, bro, what can't this guy do, man? He he
Back to
scores
goal.
headers.
Inside his own 6, man on his back, takes it with his left foot, cuts inside in front of his own goal, and calmly plays it in the midfield to
Bro.
build that. I'm like, anyone who questions this guy's ability on the ball does not watch him enough. And yeah, he's our S tier.
Yamar's
Yeah.
just a complete package at center back, man. And he's, I take it back. I did say at the very beginning we don't have a true S tier player, but he's an S tier player, I think. So,
Yeah, I'd agree.
all right. And then there you have it, folks. We got our preseason, our 2025 Sounders roster tier list. I think we nailed it. I don't know about you, Jaros. I think we got it perfect.
Yeah, no, I love this list. Top to bottom, I think we did pretty good. But I like to see in the comments what you guys think. If you agree, if you guys think that we know nothing about the Sounders and did this completely wrong, it'll be interesting to see what everyone else thinks. But I like how the list looks.
Everybody watching, please leave a thumbs up on the video. It helps the channel. Subscribe and leave a comment, man. Tell us what you agree with, disagree with. We love to have dialogue in the comments, bro. We love to talk ball. So, yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, have a wonderful day. Take care. Peace.